So this is India Simmons interviewing Mr. Taylor Toynes at the 4 Oak Cliff facility on April 4th, 2019. So, Mr. Toynes, why don't you start off by telling us when and where were you born?
When and where was I born? I was born December 2nd, 1988. I was born at a hospital in Fort Worth. That was the only time I lived there for those few days. And I was abruptly brought back to the great city of Dallas in a certain section called Oak Cliff in South Central Dallas.
And will you tell us a bit about your neighborhood?
It's the best place in the world. I grew up on East Pentagon, in the South Oak Cliff area. You know, in the 90s, growing up in Oak Cliff, it was a vibrant time. The culture was, you know, at a very high peak with, as far as television and radio, music, art. The center that we're in right now, I spent a lot of time because my grandfather owned a convenience store in this shopping center. So I literally lived maybe a 3 to 4 minute walk from here. So I'd walk up and see my granddad interact with many of the patrons that were in the community and just, you know, have a good time. But my community, to me, at the time, not being aware of everything that was going on, what's up, Dre? Not aware of everything that was going on was a really happy place. I saw a lot at a lot of different times, but didn't really understand the plight of my community till I got older. Because as a kid, that was all I knew. I just knew that this is what I saw and this is what was normal. But I loved it here. I loved the people. I loved the culture. I just loved everything about the community. Let me think, hold on, some other things I could talk about. Growing up, I remember, since we talking about race and things of that nature within this city, as a kid, when I was about probably 7, 8 years old, might not even been that old, between 5 and 8, I'd say, the KKK came to this neighborhood and they parked on Ledbetter. It was a caravan of them that was just sitting in their cars on Ledbetter. And everybody in the community knew they were there, but they were scared to get out of their cars. But for me, being a child, I was traumatized. I was fearful because I had seen the civil rights movies and seen the different things, but I was fearful that, you know, a cross was gonna be burned in my front yard. And that's something that I'll never forget. I'll never forget that. I never saw anybody, you know, with a white hood or anything like that, but I knew who was in that caravan, and I remember it being really scary to me. But I also remembered at the same time the power of my community, because in the movies, you know, and different things we saw in television or reading about, the KKK made people run and they were killing black people. But when I saw it play out in my community, it was like they were scared to get out. So that made me feel a sense of protection. And it was literally on Ledbetter, which was maybe a quarter of a mile. Like if I walked out to the street on Marsalis, if I walked out to Marsalis, I could see the cars.
And can you tell us a bit about your family?
My family. So my parents' names are Kim and Tony Toynes. Today's my mom's birthday. She turned 59 today. Both of my parents are Dallas natives, Oak Cliff natives. My parents both grew up in Senior Hills, attended the same schools from elementary to high school. My parents went to R.L. Thornton Elementary School, which was the leader of the KKK here in the city of Dallas. It's a known fact. My parents went there, and it's a school that's been predominantly African American, but they went to that elementary school, and my parents were one of the first groups to be bused out from their neighborhood to a different school. So they went to Holsey Middle School, which is southwest Oak Cliff, and then they went to Carter High School. But the way that it was supposed to go was they were supposed to go to R.L. Thornton, Zumwalt, and then South Oak Cliff High School. But their group was bused, and my parents told me about, you know, race relations at that time and how crazy it was trying to merge or integrate, which is what it actually was, integrating with other students. My grandparents, my grandfather, my mother's father, is from Arkansas. He's from Forest City, Arkansas, but his family moved here to Dallas, in South Dallas. He grew up on Burger Street, and he went to Lincoln High School. And my mother's mother, Margaret, is from 10th Street, which is a freedman's town that's right off of I-35. She went to school all throughout, not all throughout, what's the school over there? Harley. She went to Harley for elementary and middle school at the time. And then she went to Madison High School. My dad's parents are from Austin. They're from East Austin, which is somewhat like 10th Street. It's actually kind of painful to me. I just went to Austin for South by Southwest, and I went to where my aunt lived, my great aunt, which was like the gathering place for the Toynes side of my family in Austin. And I couldn't even find a house because it had been so gentrified in that neighborhood. Like the houses are completely different, and hers is still like the one lone house that still looks the same. And I went over there at nighttime, but I couldn't really even find a house, and that really hurt me. But my mother's and my great granny, she lived in Oak Cliff as well. I was blessed to be able to meet my great grandmother and learn some things from her. But my family, that's my parents and all of them. Now me, my immediate family that I have, my wife, Ariel Toynes, she was born in Las Vegas, lived in Oklahoma City till 2nd grade, and then her family moved her to Oak Cliff. They all moved here. I'm thankful for that. Me and my wife have been dating since high school, since we were juniors in high school. And now we've been married for 6 years as of March 23rd. And we have a beautiful daughter named Wednesday Jewel Toynes. That's the apple of my eye and is like the most phenomenal child in the world to me. And they keep me grounded, and they keep me driven. Like my family is very important to me. I got 2 sisters as well. My sisters, Kennedy and Lacey Toynes, both of them are in college right now. They 10 years younger than me, but they my baby sisters, and I really love and cherish them. Got a lot of aunts, uncles, and cousins. That was my uncle that I was talking to when you walked up. So when you came here, just to give you a background, everybody over here is family to me in some kind of way. That was my blood uncle I was talking to. This shopping center is a unique place for me because I literally grew up in here, and I've been blessed to be able to come back and build, something in my community and for my community. But family is, I got friends that I look at as brothers. Only thing that can make us close is blood, but I look at them as family though.
And growing up, what did a normal day at home look like for you?
A normal day at home? Like a school day or a summer day?
We can start at school.
A school day, all right. So a normal school day, man, nobody's ever asked me that. I wake myself up, I had an alarm clock. I've always prided myself on trying to be the first person up in the house. That's just something, I don't know why. I just like being, and I started early and it works for me now. It's a good thing. But I'd wake myself up, just thinking of elementary school. You good. Thinking of elementary school. I wake myself up in the morning time and I walk to school. I went to Adele Turner Elementary School, meet up with my close friend Chaz Dubose. We walk to school. Sometimes we'd forget to do our homework and we try to move real fast and try to go sit on a hill outside our elementary school and try to get our homework done for class. Go to school, come home, I walk home. When I got home, my parents would ask me about my homework. I may tell them or I may not, depending on the day. They would generally look over it with me. We'd eat dinner together. And then I'd go to my room and play my game or whatever. But it was a lot. I remember a lot just sitting at the table with my mother and my father and then my sisters as they came later on. And just talking about our days and what we had planned for the next day, eating together and just having good fellowship. Now the summertime is different. Summertime, be out riding my bike all day long, like all day. Seemed like the days were so much longer then, but I'd be out riding my bike, playing with friends, playing basketball, playing video games, just having a good old time, man. I think I'm 30 years old now, and I was blessed to be in a generation that got to experience everything, basically. So I got to play a Nintendo, the first Nintendo, then the Super Nintendo, Sega. I can remember all the game systems. And then being able to be a part of technology as it came out. Like Twitter came out when I was in college. Black Planet and MySpace came out when I was in high school. So being able to see all the different social media crazes and things and technology was cool. But that wasn't what you asked me. You asked me a day in my life. But yeah, a lot of time with my parents and my sisters and family.
Okay. And how would you describe race relations growing up?
Race relations growing up. So I want to go back some. Mm-hmm. So from pre-K 3 to 4th grade, I was at a private school. Wasn't many African American kids there. So I was able to see some things as far as race relations, and I wasn't really able to understand because I was so young. But I knew I was treated differently. I did know that. I remember just thinking of race relations, some things that stand out to me. I remember O.J. Simpson's trial. I remember the country, like, just thinking through that, like, who gonna do what, or what are they gonna vote for? Not vote for, what are they gonna do to O.J., how the jurors gonna go about that case. I remember Rodney King. I remember that happening. I remember looking at those riots in LA on TV and just wondering, like, what's going on? I think race relations was really absent in my life because it wasn't really wasn't many relationships, real relationships. I remember the first time I got called a nigga by a white guy. We went off on him. It wasn't a good picture for him. We was young, though. We was like in the 2nd grade. And when I was in 5th grade, I ended up going to a predominantly African American school. And I do remember going to that school and feeling a lot more at home, seeing a lot more people like myself. And while I was at the private school, I got referrals like every other week. When I went to the public school, I didn't get in trouble at all, really. But I didn't really have many race relations. No one really talked about race that I can remember. As far as like in conversation, I just knew things that I was taught was like, you gotta do double of what anyone else does. And I knew that people somewhat looked down on me because of the color of my skin, but I never was one of those people where it was like, I wish I wasn't black. I never thought that. I always had a lot of pride in being black. Like I always thought that was cool. I guess maybe because listening to James Brown, Al Green, and all these different people, my grandparents, and seeing them and being in my community. And my grandfather was really a pillar in this neighborhood. So I saw how much respect that he got, and I was a black man. So the most respected person I saw on the day-to-day was my grandfather. And I aspired to be like him. And I came from a family, man, that did phenomenal things. Like my dad's father was a pharmacist. My mom's father owned a business, owned a grocery store, a convenience store. Both of my parents graduated from college. You know, I got to see both sets of my grandparents. I got to see my great granny. I got to see my great aunts, my great great aunts. I got to see everybody. So I was blessed to be able to see that and be able to get real history from my family on who we were, what we were about, and that really helped to root me into being the person that I am.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And how would you describe high school for you? High
school, I was the man. No, high school, man, it was, I went to Skyline High School, and in high school, ball was life for me. Basketball was everything. I thought I was gonna go to the league. Oh no, I take that back. I just thought I was gonna go big time D1, right, at first. And I remember one summer, my select basketball team, we went and played in a tournament in Vegas, and I saw all these guys that was like, I remember vividly seeing a guy who was like 6'6", and I was like, dang, he tall. Cause I've been the same height since like the 8th grade almost. I was like, he tall. And I saw like that guy that was 6'6" was in the 7th grade, and I was a sophomore. I was like, dang. And he can run, jump as much fast as everything. He just as skilled as me. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna go far with basketball. It clicked to me. And I realized, you know, school, I understood the importance of being a student athlete. But at Skyline, I was blessed to be in a cluster that was called Man in His Environment. And that cluster was psychology, sociology, and law. And I learned a lot. You know, it was the first time that I was in a place with kids from all over the city, because Skyline is a magnet. It's the first magnet school in the country. I was around kids from all over, different backgrounds, different middle schools or whatever, magnet middle schools, and was able to grow culturally, because I had never been in school with so many Hispanics either. At Skyline, it was predominantly Hispanic, it was like 60-40. But while there, I made some lifelong friendships. It was a hard time, you know, being a teenager, trying to be a student athlete, keeping up with grades, having a social life, dating my soon-to-be wife. It was a lot going on, but I really enjoyed high school. Trying to think of some things. I mean, in high school was a for myself, it was a tough time. My senior year, actually, there was a fight that I got in a district championship game. We were playing Carter High School, and I thought my life was over after that fight. I was like, I'm not going to no school. No school's gonna want me to come play sports. Like I'm ruined. I'm not gonna be able to do anything. And I remember after that fight, you know, going back into the locker room and saying, "You might as well come through. Come through. You good? You fine. Don't worry about it. They know how to edit. Are you good?" But I got in a fight, and I remember being in the back after that and literally saying to myself, "Your life is over. Like, you're not gonna bounce back from this." And that wasn't true. So I was in a really traumatized place then, and I went through depression at that time. Thank God I had a really cool girlfriend that helped me out a lot, you know, just giving me confidence and telling me I could still do more. And my life kept going, clearly. But yeah, high school was fun. High school was fun. I was the runner-up for class favorite for my school. It was like a running joke. It was a guy named Elias. He would always win that vote. And I used to tell him, man, it's because you Hispanic, bro. So you get all the Hispanic votes. And it's like the two people, the male and female who won, were always Hispanic, and the runner-up were African-American. I was like, so I could take that. But I was, you know, homecoming court, all that kind of stuff, very involved, active student. I was in a program called Youth and Government, where I was able to go down to Austin, and I actually got a bill passed at Austin in that program. I was able to get a bill passed. I had a couple influential teachers while I was at Skyline. The first one that comes to mind, his name is Joe Wicker. And he was actually my my teacher while I was at Atwell Middle School. He was my 8th grade U.S. history teacher. And I remember my first day of school at Skyline. Well, before I left Atwell, I told Mr. Wicker, I was like, man, I'm applying for Skyline, and I'm trying to get in the Man in His Environment cluster. He was like, oh, I think you'll get in. And I was like, can you write me a letter rec? He did all that for me. I get to the Skyline on the first day of school, and I see Mr. Wicker standing outside of my cluster. So to give you some understanding of the clusters at Skyline, you're in your cluster 2 times, 2 class periods. So out of 8 periods, I had my cluster twice. So I saw my cluster every day. And I walked up and I saw Mr. Wicker, and I was like, what you doing here? And he just looked at me and he was like, it's good to see you, you'll see. And I was like, all right. So I go into the class, and it's like my first class. the teachers introduced themselves, and he's one of the teachers. So I had Mr. Wicker for the next 4 years of my life. So I had him from 8th grade all the way to my senior year. So he was really impactful. He was an attorney that chose to go teach, and he was a white guy too. And he chose to come teach at schools with majority minority students. So I really appreciated him. It was a lot of teachers, man. Ms. Robinson was my English lit teacher. She challenged me and she allowed me to think creatively. I remember reading Frankenstein in her class and falling in love with that book and coming up with my own crazy theories of what happened in Frankenstein, and reading the book Invisible Man in there. I remember reading that and just having a good time and really learning how to write and just be excited about literature. And I had another good teacher. Her name was Miss Wright. She was my Algebra 2 teacher, and she just inspired me. She used to show up to my basketball games and used to tell me and one of my close friends, Justin, that we could do anything, and I really appreciated that from her. And my coach, J.D. Mayo at Skyline, we had our differences with one another a lot. We had a lot of differences, but at the end of the day, one thing I did take from him was character. He made sure that we had good character and integrity. He enforced that, and I appreciate him for that.
What were some of the dreams you held as a child?
My dreams? First dream I had was I wanted to be like a war hero. I want to be, Forrest Gump was one of my favorite movies, and I want to be like Forrest Gump saving a bunch of people in war. I don't know why, where that came from. I wanted to go to the NBA, of course. I wanted to be a professional athlete. But my mom told me she said I might have been 2 or 3 years old, and she said I came up to her and I said, "Mommy, one day people all over the world gonna know my name." I don't know. She was like, I don't know where that came from, I didn't say world, I said a lot of people are gonna know who I am. A lot of people know my name. And I don't know where that came from, but I guess I'm living in that some. She's saying some dreams. Oh man, outside of sports, want to be a war hero. I just always wanted to be creative. I wanted to make stuff. I just wanted to build a lot of different things. My dreams are huge. You know, like I dreamed of traveling a lot. I dreamed of living in a mansion, building out my own mansion. I dreamed of all my friends always being around me. But around 6th grade, 5th, around that time, 3rd, I don't remember what actually, I guess like 99, Ron Kirk, whenever he became mayor, I remember that vividly. I don't remember the year or the actual time, but I remember him. And I remember seeing a black man be the mayor and learning what a mayor was. I was like, I want to be him. I do remember that. And I remember telling myself, I learned the process. So the first way I learned about politics was Ross Perot and George Bush were running against each other, I think. The father Bush. And no, it was Clinton. Clinton was in that race. Yeah, Bush, Clinton, and Perot. It was them. And I remember telling my dad, I just kept hearing him say, like, the race is getting tight, yada, yada. And I told my dad, I said, Bill Clinton is gonna beat all them. And he said, why you say that? I said, they can't beat him in a race. And I'm thinking they actually running against each other. So I didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, he definitely gonna win that race. But that's when I began to start learning the political system. And when I saw Ron Kirk, by that time I knew, and I was like, I wanna be the mayor. And I said, and then at the same time, I remember being in gym and seeing a poster for Skyline because it was a girl who went to Adele Turner playing basketball at Skyline, and they had their post, and our gym coach was talking about it. He said, that's the biggest high school in Dallas. And I said, well, if I'm gonna be the mayor, I need to go to the biggest high school. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to Skyline. I just started living through that.
I see. Now, can you take us through your experiences at UNT?
Yeah. UNT, so I went to Abilene Christian before I went to UNT. Abilene Christian was a whole nother world. I mean, I believe Abilene Christian maybe have 2,500 students there, maybe. Wasn't many African Americans there at all, and if it was, most of us were athletes. But I did not want to be there. I was like, man, I was culturally shook. But UNT helped me, not UNT, ACU helped me to be reflective though. That was the first time when I really just sat back and thought about my school and everyone else who were around. So we had a writing class and the teacher said, I want you to write a day in high school. What was a day like in high school? From the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And I started out, first I go through metal detectors. And I said that in the class and everybody in the class was like, what? You have metal detectors? And I'm thinking like, y'all didn't? I thought all y'all just didn't put that in there. And I started to understand then the difference. That was an awakening for me. But I couldn't make it at ACU. I had to leave. So I transferred to University of North Texas. And I went there, my girlfriend was there. That kind of made me want to transfer a little bit to that. It came down to UNT and U of H. And I said, I'm going to UNT. So I went to UNT, majored in political science, and it was a whole new world for me. It was, man, that was a wonderful place, a wonderful time. I remember my first day on campus and calling my friends at ACU. It was like, y'all losing. It was like, this is real college. This is what college is supposed to be like. And that first semester was, my first semester at UNT was, it was actually a cool time to be in college because it was when President Obama was running. And that was the first time that I could vote. So it was like all that energy was going on at the time. And my major was political science, so I had a class called Campaigns and Elections. It was at 8 a.m. class. And I remember I was the youngest person. It was an upper level class. I was the youngest one in the class. And I just remember hearing them debating in that class every day. And it was a black guy in there that was a Republican. And he was like, he would be going in on Obama, and I'm being quiet because I'm not watching Fox News and CNN like that. I'm still on my game, like just showing up for class. And I'm hearing these guys just go back, these people going back and forth, and I'm learning, just soaking it all up. And every so often, I just give my 2 cents of my perspective from my community. Like, well, I don't think that would be good because it would affect these people this way. But I began to learn how to speak the language. I began to understand the mindset. And I remember talking to the black guy in the class, like, because the election took place during that class. And I went up to him after class one time after the election. I was like, bro, did you really not vote for Obama? And he was like, no, I didn't. I was like, he said, I did not vote for him. He was like, I voted for him, even though I don't agree. He said, but I had to. I was like, all right, because bro, you tripping. If you didn't, like, you doing too much. But during that time as well, I remember the night that President Obama won, and man, that was electrifying. I remember everybody was running through the streets. You know, Jeezy had just brought out the recession, and he had My President is Black. We were all like in the streets just screaming, My President is Black, Obama 08. It was live. But I remember being at an apartment complex, and it was a white girl that walked out on her balcony, boo-hoo crying, like I'm in tears. And she said, I can't believe what these niggas did. And I looked up, and I was like, I didn't say nothing at first because I was kind of in shock. And she said, like, I can't believe these niggas put him in office. And I was like, who you talking about? I said that. And she said, it was you, it was y'all niggas. Y'all don't even know what y'all talking about. And I went off on her. I couldn't help it. Because for me, I went from calling my great grandmother who was able to, you know, like talk to me about President Obama, thinking about that, and talking to my granny and telling them like, man, this is such a beautiful thing, to hearing that. And it just set reality to me. Like, everybody's not being progressive. Everyone isn't on that same page, and it still is a lot of racists out here. But at UNT, that seeing President Obama win that election, that being the first time that I was able to vote, it inspired me more than anything. And I was actually a custodian at the time, and I remember cleaning up the probation office out there in Denton and telling some of the people that worked there, like, yeah, one day I'm gonna do something in my city. Like, I'm gonna go home to Dallas and I'm gonna do this, that, and the third. And some of them would laugh at me and didn't believe what I was talking about. They didn't know I was in college, but just, you know, cause I'm cleaning a building, I guess they thought like, this dude just talking. But it was a cool time, and I learned a lot. I grew into myself. I joined the best fraternity in the world, Alpha Phi Alpha, and made some lifelong friends. I was in a wedding of one of my line brothers this past weekend. Grew deeper with my now wife, who's my girlfriend. And I became extremely progressive while at UNT. I remember the whole 1% movement that was taking place, and started just really thinking of how many people, you know, thinking of wealth and how many billionaires it was, and looking at Anonymous and all that stuff. And they had the camps out there. People were doing they had the tents where people were just sleeping outside, and we're talking about the Occupy movement, talking about all that. I learned a lot through that, but I also learned a lot about myself, because I was able to take African American leadership classes, being around more progressive African American people from different backgrounds, hearing their thoughts and things that could be done, and then growing as a leader, you know, being a leader within my fraternity, within the NAACP, speaking out against particular issues that were taking place at school. Trayvon Martin happened while I was in college, so being able to, you know, protest that, and just being able to have a really cool time in college was a blessing, because at the same time, I knew a lot of my friends didn't get that experience. I had friends get killed while I was in college, people go to prison while I was in college, so I never took a day for granted.
And what led you to SMU afterwards?
What led me to SMU was Teach for America. Teach for America gave us the opportunity to go to SMU, and I was sitting at a table with David Chard, Dean Chard at the time of the Simmons School of Education, and we were having a dinner that George Bush was at, and I remember just talking to him like, man, I can really go to SMU, because I never thought that I would go to a school like that in my life. Never thought that I would be at SMU after college, like getting a master's degree. And he was like, yeah, you can get in, just apply, yada yada. And I was like, and I'm talking to him directly, like, man, I want you to make sure that I'm gonna get in, because I really wanted to go. And he was like, I'll make sure I do whatever. But I built a really good relationship with Dean Chard, and I really appreciated him. But yeah, I got into SMU and the Simmons School of Education, and I finished with my master's from there in May of 2016.
And what was your experience like within the Simmons School?
Oh, it was phenomenal, except for one class. Had a racist teacher, I think. I don't think. She definitely had a lot of microaggressions towards me, but I'm not gonna harp on her right now. Talk about the powerful people. So first and foremost, I gotta say Dr. Cheryl English was phenomenal. It was cool that my first class that I had was a black woman that was teaching it. And Dr. English, like, she treated me as a son to her. She didn't let me slack or do anything. Like, she made sure that I was on top of it. She helped me in the classroom, because I was teaching at the time as well. She gave me a lot of pointers there. Dr. Deborah Diffley, she was really impactful to me. Dr. Diffley was actually the place where the concept of Fort Oak Cliff as a whole was in her classroom, where it all started to come out, because it was the first day of class, and she asked me, what do you want to do? She asked everybody, and I said, I'm gonna change my community. And she said, how are you gonna do it? It's like, I'm gonna do it through education. And she said, well, you gotta be dedicated. You gotta be there forever. I said, I'm not going nowhere. And she said, all right, well, you need to look into Jeffrey Canada and the Harlem Children's Zone. I was like, all right. And she made me look and get his book, whatever it takes, Fist Stick, Knife Gun, all these books that Jeffrey Canada had wrote. And I read about them. My special project for grad school was to build out 4 Oak Cliff as this organization. And she really helped me, gave me a lot of pointers, educated me on just how to talk to different funders. So it was really cool that I was able to get that type of experience while getting a master's of education, because that wasn't necessarily directed towards the classroom. This was something that could be supportive of the community. But there was a situation where it was a teacher that wasn't corresponding to me culturally correctly. She would call me out if I was late to class, and I wouldn't even be late. It'd just be like, man, I mean, I guess I was late, come in like 5 minutes, but I was working a full-time job teaching. You know, like, you never know what happened at dismissal. But I would literally come in and she'd call me out, like literally say something. But other people could come in, she don't say nothing. There was times where I would send her emails with work, and I guess she wouldn't get them or whatever. She came out the classroom one day yelling at me like, "You need to turn this assignment in." And I was like, "I did." And she said, "I didn't get it." And I showed her where I sent it, and she just was like, "Okay, whatever." But we had to do a special project in that class where we had to do it was a creativity in the classroom. And I had to do something that the project was do something that you've never done before, create something you've never created. So at the time I was at Zumwalt Middle School, and I wanted to create like a peace rally for my students, because it was people getting murdered, a lot of violence and crime taking place. And I went through the neighborhood just to take pictures to show what it was like. And I still got the presentation on my computer. I just looked at it recently. And one of the things that I brought up was I gave a young man a ride from his house to school on the day of the STAR test one time. And I told him, like, hey, the same things I was taught, you got to do more. You got to go harder. You got to be the best of the best. And I told him, you got to get your best on this test, because it's a kid somewhere in Highland Park or something that's riding in a Bentley to take the same test that you taking today. And I said that in the classroom, and she literally cut me off and told me that I'm trying to make division, and was saying that she was like, yeah, you didn't have to say that. Like, yeah, it's kids in my neighborhood. I see a cute little black boy every day waiting on the bus. And I'm like, black people can't live in nice neighborhoods? That wasn't my point. I'm just letting him know what he has to do from where he coming from. But I took it to the dean at that time. And even in the dean's office, she continued to get those microaggressions, to the point where I told the dean, I'm not gonna sit here and just let somebody talk to me like that. And I left. I walked out, and the dean said she understood, and I didn't have to show back up to that class. I just reported directly to the dean with the rest of my assignments. But I was the only black male in that class. But I saw at SMU, you know, I didn't go there undergrad, and I was 25 when I was getting my master's. So I'm up there, and I'm like, dang, if I want to feel broke, I can come to SMU, because the average car I saw was a BMW, Range Rover, and Lexus. Like, literally, I remember seeing that. Those were the cars. And I'm pulling up with the same car I was driving in high school, my 1999 Isuzu Trooper. And I'm like, man, I know I'm sticking out up here. But I never let that hold me back from anything. I was able to take my students up there to see the campus, but it was a beautiful place, beautiful place. And I was really proud to be able to get that degree from SMU and show my grandmother, who never even walked on that campus in her life, to be able to show her, like, you know, you came from a freedman's town started by free slaves, and now your grandson, you know, got not just the undergrad, but I got my master's degree from SMU. And, you know, statistically, that's not normal coming from 75216 to be able to go to an institution like that for a master's degree. I don't think I'm done yet.
Now, even though you were a graduate student, how would you describe the social life or culture of SMU at the time?
The social life and culture. I believe at that time, I think one of them blackface parties had taken place up there. I couldn't really get involved with it like I wanted to. That was horrible. Just to throw that out, you know, like that was taking place there. I feel the social life was more of an undergrad thing, but even just comparing what I knew social life to be at UNT compared to SMU, it was nothing the same. This was a very pretentious place, very pretentious place. Didn't see too many people that looked like me that were trying to plug me into different things. Even as a grad student, you know, it was other things that we could have been doing socially for different communities or whatnot. There wasn't a lot of that going on, or at least I just didn't know about it. I wasn't aware of it. But it seemed like I could only imagine going there for undergrad. I could see it being a traumatizing place, somewhere where if you're not seeing a lot of friends or people who look like you, it could be hard just to grow into yourself if you're not used to that environment. I think SMU is making strides towards that now, more. But yeah, man, socially, I think, I take that back. I don't know what strides they're making right now. But I think the culture can be disrupted. I think it should be disrupted because it's Highland Park High School, well, Highland Park College, really. I would like to see more people of color, and I think that SMU is actively doing that, like trying to effectively make those changes. Yeah, socially, that's all. But before I went there, you know, I remembered them having the affirmative action stuff going on at SMU when I was like in high school. I remember reading about that, and I was just really trying to get prepared for any of that because I'm not a person that'll hold my tongue. And generally, thank God, a lot of that stuff don't come directly to me because I'll let you know how I feel about it or what I think about it. But I think SMU, man, SMU is what SMU wants its reputation to be, I believe. I believe that SMU wants to be, you know, they call it the Harvard of the South. I don't know how long they've been calling it the Harvard of the South, but I can imagine if you were calling yourself that in the 40s or 50s or whatever, what that means, you know, like that's exclusionary to people. And I appreciate the trailblazers who came before me, like the India Simmons and all them who set ablaze to that campus. They were trailblazers, man, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate people like yourself carrying on the legacies and actually showing what can be done and who people are on that campus. And I just want to be assistance to whoever I can help culturally bring it up to speed.
And during your time there, what would you say was your most memorable experience?
My most memorable, graduating.
Yeah.
Graduating was a memorable experience because my daughter was there. My daughter was just born that February. Being able to be there with my family, it was a beautiful graduation. And just being able to reflect on everything, you know, like, dang, I'm graduating with my master's. I got on a special robe. Like it was a cool experience. It was like one of those things like my dream was a reality. You know, like, dang, I'm really here. Like this really happened. It was a very memorable experience. Another thing that was memorable to me was taking my students there and letting them just be free on campus and look at them. And even myself, like just how beautiful the campus is. Like it's one of the most beautiful, peaceful places I've ever been. I don't know how they get the grass to be so green and so soft, but hey, I'm with it. It's cool. It's cool. Those are two things that I can really recall. And then just the instructors that I told you about, the professors that I had, Dean Chard, I really appreciated him and the people who helped me to build out 4 Oak Cliff for my community.
And overall, as a Black man, how well did you feel that you were treated by other students and or faculty members?
Outside of that one incident, pretty good. Okay. Everything was good for me. No one really like treated me any different type of way. I speak to everybody, and generally, like, I make sure they speak back to me if they don't. Like, if I make eye contact with somebody, I'm gonna say hello or good morning, good evening, whatever. So I always did that, but I didn't spend too much time on campus outside of studying that library. I love the library at SMU too. Mm-hmm. I read a lot of great books out of that library, but I didn't spend too much time on campus, just driving back and forth. But yeah, being able to take my students up there was cool though. But nobody ever did anything to me outside of that one class. But other than that, everything was cool for me.
And can you tell us how your idea for Oak Cliff developed?
Yeah, so 4 Oak Cliff developed out of my 4th grade classroom, students not having school supplies, and wanting to host a block party at Glendale Park for my students to get their school supplies. And we organized and we kept letting people know about it. And next thing I know, the first year of the festival, we got 1,000+ people. The United Way, a main sponsor there, and we gave out over 1,000 backpacks. And then now to, last summer, it was about 5,000 people in attendance. Gave out about 3,500 backpacks and fed a lot of people. But the basis of the festival was voter registration, job fair, college fair, school supply giveaway. But at SMU, in class with Dr. Diffley and studying Jeffrey Canada, I realized that the Back to School Festival wasn't going to change the systemic issues that was taking place in my community, and that I had to create a place-based backbone organization. And I actually got to see Jeffrey Canada keynote a speech, and while at that speech, there was an organization that was hiring for a position to organize in South Oak Cliff essentially. And the organization that was hosting that event was the one with the job. So I told them, like, man, I'll apply for the job. They hired me, and while in that position, I was able to build out 4 Oak Cliff programmatically, focusing on a dual gen concept. I was able to learn that, where we work with parents and children together to heal and build the entire family, instead of just doing a single gen where I'm working with just the kid or just the parent. Being at SMU, honestly, the research class that I took really helped me out a lot, because I was able to have a different eye in researching. One of the things that I was able to look at is realizing how many individuals in my community don't have a GED, and to notice there aren't any GED classes in here, and how much that affects an entire family if the parent is able to have something as simple as a GED. So now here we host GED classes for parents. We have a program for Lena, it's called Lena, working with parents and toddlers, increasing the words and vocabulary of children. We have enrichment after school here. We got this dope ass facility that we manifested and God blessed us with. We've been able to leverage, some of the most powerful and influential people in the world. Mark Zuckerberg helped us start our community garden. J. Cole came to the Back to School Festival. Charlemagne did an event with us about mental health. Nipsey Hussle, rest his soul, was just here right where I'm at with us last month, talking about the things that we can do to scale our work and build in other places. So it's been cool. But it all started on Bonnie View at Bushman Elementary School in Mr. Toynes' 4th grade classroom. No students are now in the 8th grade. I just took one of the main ones, Devin Smith, took him to the Mavericks game for his birthday on Monday. So it's been cool.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And so what does life look like for you now?
What does life look like for me now? How y'all doing? So for me, day to day, every day, life for me now is wonderful. Often people ask me, how am I doing? And I tell them I'm not dead or in jail, so I can't complain. And that's real. I've been able to, like I said, live out my dreams. My dreams have become a reality for me. But I've dedicated my life to my community. So my day-to-day now looks like me coming here every single day, interacting with my community, giving of myself as much as I can, being a servant leader for my people, accessing as many resources as I possibly can, and bringing them and leveraging them for my community. Being able to be around phenomenal individuals who are doing phenomenal things, being able to support and have the support of a miraculous team, and being able to still have my family and be rooted with my family. I got a lot of ways that I serve as a leader. I'm on the park board for the city of Dallas. I had a park board meeting today. I represent my community, and I actually get to represent the actual park that our Back to School Festival is held in, and we're doing a brand new master plan for that park and redeveloping it. I'm able to go to all the schools that I worked in and still be with those students, catch up on their everyday lives, be able to provide resources not just for them but their families as a whole. And most importantly, my everyday is being able to represent my hood as much as I possibly can. I mean, this interview is gonna get a good shot of it, but I put Oak Cliff on my back every day I wake up, and I just love to be able to come out and be with my people. At the end of the day, for me, that's better. It's not a dollar amount that could make me feel more fulfilled than that. To be able to come to the neighborhood that I was actually raised in, like I played in this parking lot, like my grandfather had a store over here, and now to be able to go out and help people to get things to improve their lives as far as GEDs or housing or child care and education, advice, just being able to have all that to help people, it's been so fulfilling to me. My everyday life, man, is just, I wake up every morning as soon as my feet touch the ground. I thank God. I thank Him for waking me up again. I'm thankful for my family, for my daughter, for my wife. And in this situation with Nipsey Hussle, where really heavy on me, because it's a reality. You could be here today, gone tomorrow. One of my best friends is serving a 35-year sentence in prison right now. So, being able to put on for him, like for something, he got sent to prison when he was 16, for something that we all know he didn't do, but he didn't have a lawyer, he couldn't afford it. So being able to do all these things, because a lot of people are counting on me to be the one to speak out. And I understand my level of leadership and where I'm placed in leadership. So just being able to continue to lead from the voice of my people and let them hold me accountable and operating out of love, that's the most important thing, though, is just giving as much love as I possibly can and receiving it back.
And do you have any regrets at all?
Any regrets? Any regrets? I'm going through it. Nah, no regrets. Everything happened for a reason. I don't believe in losses, I believe in lessons. I believe that it's been situations where things have happened, but you take a loss, you can't cry about it. You gotta keep going forward. Everything that happens in life, there's no such thing as accidents or mistakes. Everything is in divine order. And I've worked to be as righteous in everything that I do, be righteous as possible, and have positive intentions with those who I work with, and operate from my spirit as much as possible. So, no regrets. No regrets at all. I can't have no regrets. I mean, life is, I'm living, man, I'm good.
Well, that's wonderful to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mr. Toynes, is there anything at all that you feel I may have missed, which you would like to further discuss?
Nah, there's nothing that you didn't. You asked me some stuff people ain't never asked me before. Made me think. I'll just say this. I'll say this. I don't want y'all to have it on camera because I don't know, years from now, since the camera's in my face, I just want everybody to always know that, man, everything that I've done and everything that I will do, I'm putting my community and my family first. Take that back. I'm putting God first, putting my community and my family, my God, family, community, in that order. And that I'm somebody that I just want everyone to love their neighbor. That's the most powerful thing to me. And I want everybody, whoever see this might not make the edits, but one day this footage might be used for something, but anything is possible. I'm a testament of that. I grew up in a neighborhood that the data shows I'd end up in prison, but I'm here talking about my degree from SMU, my degree from UNT, all in the midst of all these things. So anything is possible. I have extreme confidence because my faith is rooted in God, and if I believe in God, anything is possible.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.